The rain hammered down on the windshield like it was trying to bury me alive, and my knuckles were white on the steering wheel of my beat-up Chevy pickup. I was barreling down Gratiot Avenue in the dead of night, Detroit's east side flashing past in a blur of boarded-up storefronts and flickering streetlights. My phone was on speaker, Sarah's voice cracking through the static. "Dad, they're right behind me! The Kings, they saw me! I swear I didn't say nothing, but Rico thinks I snitched!" I slammed the gas, heart slamming against my ribs harder than the engine could take. "Stay where you are, baby girl. I'm coming. Lock the damn door if you can." My voice sounded steady, but inside I was screaming. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not to us. Not tonight. When Emily was back at the trailer coughing up blood again, and the hospital bill was already a mountain we couldn't climb. I'm Mike Harlan, 45 years old, born and raised in the shadow of the old auto plants that used to feed this city. I fix cars for a living, brakes, transmissions, the occasional miracle on a Saturday when some rich kid from the suburbs brings in his daddy's Mustang. I make enough to keep the lights on and the fridge half full, but that's it. No savings, no retirement, just me, Emily, Sarah, and little Tommy scraping by in a double wide on the edge of Hamtramck. We were the American dream on life support, and now it felt like the plug was getting yanked. It started 6 weeks earlier, the day the doctor looked at Emily across that sterile desk and said the word none of us wanted to hear: cancer. Stage 3, aggressive, the kind that doesn't wait for you to save up. She needed a double mastectomy and chemo, and the out-of-pocket after insurance was $42,000, $42,000. I laughed when he said it, actually laughed out loud in the office like a crazy man, because what else do you do when the floor drops out from under your feet? Emily squeezed my hand so hard her nails left marks. "We'll figure it out, Mike," she whispered on the drive home, her voice already thinner. But her eyes were scared, and that scared me more than anything. I started picking up every extra shift at the shop. Nights, weekends, even holidays. I'd come home smelling like oil and exhaust, kiss her forehead while she lay on the couch too weak to cook, and tell her everything was gonna be fine. Tommy, 12 years old and all elbows and questions, would ask me why Mom was sleeping so much. I'd ruffle his hair and say, "She's just tired, buddy. We're all gonna be okay." Lies, mostly, but what else could I say? Sarah was the one who tried to help in her own stubborn way. 16, beautiful, smart as a whip, wanted to be a nurse someday, help people like her mom. She got a part-time job at the corner store on the block, stocking shelves after school. I told her no, stay home and study, but she wouldn't listen. "Dad, we need the money. I can handle it." Famous last words. Turns out the store was a front for the Kings, a local crew running pills and protection rackets through the neighborhood. Sarah saw something she shouldn't have one night after closing. A drop-off gone wrong, guns out, voices yelling. She tried to slip out the back, but Rico, the lieutenant with the neck tattoos and the dead eyes, caught her. Told her she owed them for silence. $5,000 or they'd make sure the whole family paid. She came home that night white as a sheet and swore she'd fix it herself. Borrowed from some kids at school, scraped together a couple hundred, not enough. The Kings don't do payment plans. That's why I was racing through the rain now, windshield wipers slapping like they were mad at me too. Sarah had texted me the address, an abandoned warehouse off the service drive near the old Packard plant. I knew the spot. I towed cars out of there more times than I could count. My toolbox was rattling in the bed of the truck, and under the seat I had a tire iron and a prayer. I wasn't a fighter. I was just a dad who fixed things for a living, and right now my daughter was the thing that needed fixing most. I skidded into the lot, gravel flying, headlights cut through the downpour and lit up 3 figures by the loading dock. Sarah was on her knees, hair plastered to her face, and 2 guys in black hoodies had her arms pinned. Rico stood in front, Smoking a cigarette like this was just another Tuesday. I killed the engine and stepped out, rain soaking me to the bone in seconds. Rico! I yelled, voice carrying over the storm. Let her go. She's a kid. He laughed, low and mean. Harlan, the grease monkey, your girl here cost me product. 5 grand, or she works it off. Your choice. I walked closer, hands loose at my sides, even though my pulse was hammering. You touch her again and I'll burn this whole operation down. I know people, cops, lawyers. I'll talk. Rico flicked the cigarette away. You got nothing, old man. But hey, pay up, or watch what happens. One of the hoodies yanked Sarah's arm harder. She cried out. That sound flipped a switch in me. I lunged, tire iron already in my hand, from the truck. I caught the first guy across the knee crack, and he went down howling. Rico pulled a piece, but I was already moving, adrenaline making everything slow and sharp at the same time. Sarah twisted free and ran toward me. I grabbed her, shoved her behind the truck, and swung again. The iron connected with Rico's wrist. The gun clattered away into the puddles. Run! I screamed at her. She bolted for the passenger door. I backed toward the truck, eyes on Rico. He was cradling his arm, cursing in Spanish, but the look he gave me said this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. We peeled out of there, tires spinning on wet gravel. Sarah was sobbing in the seat beside me, shaking so bad I thought she'd come apart. Dad, I'm sorry I tried to help Mom, I didn't know. Shh, baby, it's okay. We're together. That's what matters. My hands were trembling on the wheel, but I kept driving, eyes on the rear view every second. No headlights followed. Not yet. We made it home to the trailer just after midnight. Emily was awake on the couch, oxygen tube in her nose, TV flickering some old rerun. Tommy was asleep in his room, oblivious. Sarah ran straight to her mom and buried her face in her shoulder. I stood in the doorway, dripping, and told Emily everything in a low voice while Sarah cried. Emily's eyes filled, but she didn't break. She just held our girl and looked at me like I was still the hero she married 20 years ago. That night I didn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table with a bottle of cheap whiskey and a notebook, trying to figure out how the hell we were going to get out of this. 42 grand for Emily, 5 grand for the Kings, and now they knew my face. The American dream felt like a cruel joke. The next weeks were a blur of exhaustion and fear. I worked double shifts at the shop, then came home and fixed cars in the driveway until 2 in the morning, neighbors' Hondas, a guy's busted transmission from the plant. I sold my watch, my good tools, even the old baseball cards I'd kept since I was Tommy's age. Every dollar went into a coffee can in the cupboard marked Emily. Sarah stayed home from school too scared to go back to the store. She helped with Tommy, cooked what little we had, and apologized 100 times a day. I told her it wasn't her fault, but I could see the guilt eating her alive. Emily got sicker. The pain meds weren't cutting it anymore. One night she woke up gasping, and I drove her to the ER at 3 a.m. They kept her for 2 days, ran more tests, and the doctor pulled me aside. Mr. Harlan, we can't wait much longer. The cancer is spreading. If we don't operate soon. He didn't finish. He didn't have to. I sat in the hospital cafeteria with a cold cup of coffee and cried for the first time since I was a kid. Real tears, the kind that come from the gut. I thought about the life we were supposed to have, the house with the yard, the college funds, the vacations to the lake. Instead we had this. But I wiped my face, stood up, and went back to her room. I'm getting the money, Em, I swear on my life. Back home, the Kings left a message. A brick through the trailer window with a note. 5 grand by Friday or the girl pays. Sarah saw it and shut down completely. Tommy asked if we were moving. I lied and said no. Everything was fine. I needed a miracle. What I got was a long shot. There was this underground car thing on the east side, legal enough to not get you arrested, illegal enough to pay cash. Street legal drags and a big money show and shine at the old fairgrounds. Prize for best custom build and fastest quarter mile, 25 grand. I had the Chevy. It was a rust bucket on the outside, but I'd been rebuilding the engine for years in my spare time. 350 small block headers, the works. It could run. If I entered the custom class and the drag, I might pull it off. It was stupid, dangerous, but it was something. I spent 3 straight nights in the driveway under a tarp, tools in hand, Sarah holding the flashlight, even though she was terrified of the dark now. We swapped in new plugs, tuned the carb, balanced the tires with whatever I could scrounge. Tommy helped too, handing me wrenches and asking a million questions. It felt like family again for a minute. The night of the event, the fairgrounds were packed with muscle cars, lowriders, and guys who looked like they belonged on the king's payroll. Rico wasn't there, but his crew was watching from the sidelines. I kept my head down, registered under a fake name, and prayed. The show and shine came first. I rolled the Chevy out, hood up, and the judges circled. One guy, an old-timer with a Ford hat, stopped and whistled. "Son, you built this yourself?" I nodded. He asked about the cam timing, the rear end gear. I answered like it was the only thing that mattered. When they announced winners, my name, well, the fake one came up third. 5 grand. Not enough, but it was a start. Then the drags. I lined up against a boosted Civic and a big block Camaro. The flag dropped. My Chevy roared like it had been waiting its whole life for this. I shifted clean, tires biting, and crossed the line first by a nose. The crowd went nuts. Another 10 grand, 15 total. I was shaking when I collected the envelope, but Rico's guys were waiting by my truck after. "Nice run, Harlan, but you still owe. Hand it over." I looked at them, then at the envelope in my hand. "This is for my wife. Touch me and I'll make sure every cop in the city knows your faces." They laughed, but something in my eyes must have changed because they backed off. For now. I drove home with the cash burning a hole in my pocket. Emily was waiting up, pale but smiling when I told her. Sarah hugged me so tight I thought my ribs would crack. Tommy cheered like we'd won the Super Bowl. We still needed 27 grand more. But the story got out. One of the judges from the show was a reporter for the local news. He did a piece on the mechanic saving his wife's life one wrench at a time. It went viral on the Detroit networks. GoFundMe link in the description. Donations started small, 20 here, 50 there. Then a car club in the suburbs matched the first 5 grand. A church in Hamtramck held a pancake breakfast and raised another 8. People I'd never met dropped off casseroles and checks. Even some guys from the shop chipped in. The Kings tried one more time. They showed up at the trailer 2 nights later, but this time the neighborhood was ready. Word had spread. Half a dozen neighbors guys I'd fixed cars for over the years stood on their porches with baseball bats and phones ready to dial 911. Rico took one look, spat on the ground, and left. They never came back. Emily got her surgery 2 weeks later. The doctors said it went perfect. Chemo started, and she was weak, but she was fighting. Sarah went back to school, real school, not the corner store. She joined a support group for kids with sick parents and started talking about nursing again like it was possible. Tommy got a new bike from one of the donations, and his smile could light up the whole block. I used the last of the race money and some of the GoFundMe to put a down payment on a little garage space near the freeway. Nothing fancy, just a bay, a lift, and my name on the sign, Harlan's Auto Repair. Word spread fast. Business came in steady. For the first time in years, we had breathing room. A little savings, a future that didn't feel like it was slipping through my fingers. 6 months later, we sat on the front steps of the trailer, soon to be traded for a small house in a better part of town, watching the sunset paint the Detroit skyline orange and pink. Emily's hair was growing back in soft curls. Sarah was laughing at something Tommy said. I had my arm around my wife, and for the first time in a long time, I believed the words I'd been saying all along. We were gonna be okay. The rain that night on Grasha Avenue felt like it was trying to drown me, but it didn't. It washed the fear away and left something stronger behind. A family that refused to break, a man who learned that sometimes the American dream isn't handed to you. You fight for it with everything you've got. 1 mile, $1, one prayer at a time, and we won.